Alex had prepared for this moment all week. He knew the story, he knew the joke, and he even practiced a smile. Not a normal smile, but a confident one, the kind of smile people use in profile pictures when they're standing next to a rented car. Then Alex walked into the room. 20 people, music, glasses clinking, and someone laughing too loudly near the snacks. Alex took a breath. This was it, his chance to be charming. He opened his mouth and said, "Nice weather." They were indoors at night, and there were no windows. The conversation died so quickly it should have had a funeral. Alex smiled again, though this time it looked less confident and more like he'd accidentally swallowed a Lego. Across the room stood Daniel. Daniel wasn't taller, richer, or even especially good-looking, but people leaned toward him when he spoke. They laughed at his stories, remembered his name, and when he left, someone actually said, "Daniel is so charismatic." Alex watched him walk away and thought what most people think. Some people are just born with it. Lucky them, unlucky Alex. But that idea was about to cause him a much bigger problem. 3 days later, Alex had a meeting at work. He had a genuinely good idea. He'd written notes, made charts, and had even removed one chart because it looked like a plate of spaghetti. When his turn came, Alex started speaking too fast. His hands moved like they were trying to escape, and every sentence ended like a question. "We could try a new pricing model. Maybe test it next month." Unless that's stupid. It wasn't stupid, but it sounded like Alex didn't trust his own idea, so nobody else trusted it either. 5 minutes later, Daniel repeated almost the same idea, slower, calmer, and with fewer words. The room nodded, and the manager smiled. "Great thinking, Daniel." Alex sat there holding the same idea in a different body, and that was the moment it started to hurt. Charisma isn't just about being popular at parties. It changes who gets heard, who gets remembered, who gets trusted, and sometimes who gets promoted. Alex had quietly decided that he didn't have it, treating it like blue eyes, musical talent, or the ability to fold a fitted sheet. You either get it at birth, or you spend your life fighting elastic corners. However, later that night, Alex noticed something strange while watching an old video from school. There was Daniel at 14 years old, thin voice, bad haircut, standing in front of the class, looking down at his shoes, forgetting his sentence, and saying sorry 3 times, once to the teacher, once to the class, and once apparently to the floor. Alex replayed it. Daniel? The charismatic Daniel? The man who could now make a grocery list sound interesting? He wasn't born with it. So what happened? Alex decided to ask him. They met for coffee the next morning, where Daniel listened to the whole story, the party, the meeting, the indoor weather report. Then he laughed, not at Alex, mostly, and said something Alex didn't expect. "I used to be worse than you." That sounded impossible, like a shark admitting it once feared water. Daniel explained that years earlier, he'd taken a job at a small electronics store. Every day, strangers asked him questions, and every day he had to answer. At first, he was terrible. He spoke too fast, avoided eye contact, and gave 5-minute answers to 10-second questions. A customer once asked where the headphones were, and Daniel explained the history of Bluetooth. But slowly he changed, not because he read a book called Become Magnetic in 7 Days, and not because he stared into a mirror shouting, "I am powerful." He changed because he practiced hundreds of tiny moments, greeting people, remembering names, asking one good question, waiting before answering, and telling the same story slightly better each time. Charisma, Daniel said, wasn't one big gift. It was a pile of small skills. Alex didn't believe him, not fully, because charismatic people look natural. They don't seem to be doing anything. That's the trick. A good driver doesn't look like they're calculating every turn. A good cook doesn't panic while cutting an onion. And a charismatic person doesn't look like they're thinking. Eye contact now. Smile in 3, 2, 1. The skill becomes invisible. But before it becomes invisible, it looks awkward, very awkward. So Daniel gave Alex a challenge. For 7 days, Alex had to stop trying to be impressive. Instead, he had to make one person feel noticed. That was it. No magic posture, No secret handshake, no speaking like a movie villain, just one person. The next morning, Alex entered the elevator with a neighbor he'd seen for 2 years. Usually, they both stared at the numbers above the door, because apparently, floor numbers become fascinating when humans don't know what to say. This time, Alex asked, "Your dog always looks happy. What's his name?" The neighbor smiled, "Benny," and then showed Alex 12 photos. Alex had expected one, but Benny had apparently lived a very busy life. Something changed. The neighbor opened up, not because Alex told an amazing story, but because Alex showed real interest. That was the first piece. Charisma isn't always about making people interested in you. Often, it's about making them feel interesting around you. The next day, Alex tried it at lunch. A coworker mentioned she'd started running. Old Alex would have said, "Nice," then eaten his sandwich in silence. New Alex asked, "What made you start?" Her face changed, and she told him about a race she wanted to finish with her sister. Now the conversation had a story, a reason, and something real. Alex didn't need better jokes. He needed better questions. But on day 3, things went wrong. Alex decided to practice eye contact, taking it far too seriously. A cashier said, "That'll be $12. Alex looked directly into her eyes and didn't look away. She handed him the receipt. He kept looking. She looked at the next customer. Alex was still looking. This was no longer charisma. This was a hostage situation. Daniel explained the mistake. Confidence isn't staring. It's comfort. Comfort with looking away, and comfort with silence. That last one was difficult, as Alex treated silence like a fire alarm. The moment a conversation paused, he rushed to fill it, sometimes with useful words, sometimes with weather. Daniel told him to wait 1 second before answering. 1 second sounds tiny, but when you're nervous, it feels like a full season of television. When the next meeting arrived, Alex had another idea. His heart sped up and his brain prepared to throw every word into the room at once. But this time he stopped, looked at the manager, and said, "I think we're solving the wrong problem." Then he paused. The room went quiet, not awkward quiet, but interested quiet. For the first time, people were waiting for him. Alex explained the idea in 3 simple parts. No apology, no maybe this is stupid, and no verbal bubble wrap. When he finished, nobody clapped. This wasn't a movie, but the manager asked him to continue. That was enough. Why did such a small change matter? Because people don't only listen to words, they listen to signals. A rushed voice says, "I'm afraid you'll stop listening." Constant apologies say, "I don't trust what I'm saying," while calm pauses say, "I'm not scared of this moment." That doesn't mean slow people are always confident. Sometimes they just forgot the sentence. But the signals add up, and our brains notice them before we do. Psychologists often describe first impressions using 2 simple questions. Is this person warm? And is this person capable? Warmth without confidence can make you likable but easy to ignore, while confidence without warmth can make you impressive but slightly terrifying, like a very successful crocodile. Charisma often sits in the middle. I see you, and I'm not afraid to be seen. Alex started noticing this everywhere. The best teacher he remembered wasn't the loudest. She made every student feel like their question mattered. The most respected person at work didn't talk the most. He spoke when he had something to say. Even the funniest friend in the group didn't tell nonstop jokes. He listened, and then, at exactly the right moment, said the one sentence everyone remembered. Charisma wasn't noise. It was timing, attention, clarity, and emotional courage. That last part surprised Alex, because you can learn eye contact, practice speaking slower, or memorize people's names, but eventually, charisma asks for something more uncomfortable. You have to risk being real. A week later, Alex went to another social event. Same room, same music, possibly the same snacks. He walked in and saw a group discussing travel. Old Alex would have searched for the perfect thing to say, something clever, impressive, or something that made everyone immediately realize he was fascinating. Instead, he listened. One guy was talking about missing a train in Italy, so Alex asked what happened next, making the story even funnier. Then Alex shared his own story about boarding the wrong bus and spending 40 minutes confidently traveling in the opposite direction. He didn't make himself the hero. He made himself the joke. People laughed not because the story was brilliant, but because it was honest. Later, someone asked Alex what he did for work. Normally, he'd give the safest answer possible, but this time he said what he actually liked about it. His voice changed, his face changed, and interest proved to be contagious, just as boredom is. That's why "what are you passionate about?" can become a dangerous question. Some people light up while others begin describing spreadsheets. And yet, even a spreadsheet can sound interesting if the person genuinely cares. Charisma isn't having the coolest life. It's being fully present in the life you have. However, Alex still had one problem. He wanted results too quickly. After 7 days, he checked himself like a fitness app. More charismatic? Maybe 12%? He began judging every conversation. Did they laugh enough? Did they ask questions? Was that pause powerful? Or did everyone just forget he was there? Daniel told him this was the final trap. The harder you try to look charismatic, the less present you become. You stop listening, start performing, and are no longer with the person. You're watching yourself from outside your own body, checking the smile, checking the hands, and checking whether your personality has loaded yet. Real charisma doesn't come from controlling every move. It comes from moving your attention away from yourself. So Alex changed the goal. Not "how do I look?" but "what is happening here?" Not "do they like me?" but "do I understand them?" Not "what impressive thing should I say?" but "what honest thing is worth saying?" Months passed. Alex didn't become a different person. He didn't enter rooms in slow motion. Music didn't start playing behind him, and nobody whispered, "There he is." But people interrupted him less, invited him more, asked for his opinion, and remembered his stories. And the strange part was, Alex stopped needing them to. That was when he became most charismatic. Not when he learned how to win attention, but when he stopped begging for it. Charisma isn't a mysterious light some people are born with. It's what happens when attention, confidence, warmth, and honesty become habits. You practice listening, practice speaking clearly, and practice surviving small, awkward moments without running away. Then, one day, people call you naturally charismatic. They don't see the bad conversations, the nervous pauses, or the eye contact incident at the grocery store. They only see the finished skill, as talent gets credit for what practice did quietly. So the next time someone walks into a room and everyone notices, don't assume they were born different. Maybe they simply learned how to notice others, learned to trust silence, or failed in enough rooms that one room could no longer scare them. Charisma isn't something you have. It's something you do again and again until it looks like who you are. If you want more stories about the hidden skills that quietly change your life, subscribe. There's a good chance the next one is something you thought you were either born with or not.